which was what the most controversial book, because all those findings of inadequate reaction. Originally we're expected to know that obviously anyone can chip in, so feel free. I read today about Theresa May, the UK Home Secretary, her intention to utilise her counter-terrorism powers to vet British broadcasting programmes before the air. And I'm wondering what you think of this. And also if you've ever been asked to edit content or suppress a story because it contradicted the propaganda directives out of the UK or the US government. I suppose specifically at the time of 2011, when in the reality of what you were witnessing in Afghanistan was quite different.
Sorry, are you asking about the UK Home Secretary Theresa May's plan to give the government power to censor British television where extremism is concerned? Is that the essence of the question?
Asking if we've ever been asked to edit content.
Ah, right, okay.
I mean, I do work for Rupert, but I have never been asked to write anything in a particular way or change anything the whole time that I've been at the Sunday Times. What does make me extremely angry is that in Britain, when we go and embed with British military, we have to sign something called the Green Book, which means that everything we write, print, broadcast is first seen by the Ministry of Defence in London, and this is supposed to be for operational security. I believe it's censorship. I tried to get all the newspapers and broadcasters in Britain to support me, and nobody would, because they felt they would not get embeds if they refused to accept it. And I argued that we should, when we go on these things and we write these reports about what British troops are doing, we should put at the end of the report that this report was subject to censorship, which is exactly what we do if we go into Iran or somewhere where we have minders, but nobody does.
And you think that the MOD, the Ministry of Defence, not only sees what you've written, but then changes it?
Absolutely. And
you've got no contact on that?
Yeah, because we all have to sign that, every single paper and broadcaster, and nobody, most people don't know it because nobody actually talks about it.
Is it your view that they genuinely are changing things for real security reasons, or that they're intervening in what the journalists have written for censorship reasons, political reasons?
I think they used it. I was the first journalist to be embedded with the combat troops in 2006 when it was being portrayed to the British public as a reconstruction project. I got in a huge ambush with a group of British soldiers. The Sunday Times turned it into a 5-page story saying this is war, not reconstruction, and I talked about the fact that there were no helicopters available and none of the equipment worked, and it became a huge controversy. And after that, everybody that went had to sign these documents because they felt that people were questioning the mission rather than reporting on what was actually happening. And everybody did it, and they certainly have used it to change things. Some of the things, for example, do you remember the SATS vehicles? There were these sort of like open Land Rovers that the British were using, that the Americans used to call safari vehicles, and they kept being blown up by the Taliban. They were very vulnerable. And so I wrote in a report about other things, but I talked about the fact that so many of these had been killed. And everybody knew that, and they removed that from my copy. And I said, why did you do that? And they said, because that gives information to the Taliban. I said, the Taliban don't need to read the Sunday Times.
In a sense, that brings us kind of full circle, because it's